everyone, welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters with your questers, Josh and Dan. I'm Dan.
And I am Josh. Welcome to 2026.
Absolutely. And on today's podcast, we will be discussing all things Mynbruje. I had a word this time. 2 episodes ago, I did not, but I had a word this time. So if you have any questions for us about anything you're about to hear tonight or any other 260 some odd episodes before this one, please drop us a line at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. The inbox is empty. First come, first serve. So by all means, get your questions into Josh. We will pick his myriad sewer trap brain and see what we can pluck out of there and have explained for you that needs to be explained. So today we're going to talk about the third episode, third adventure in the Blades Compendium
Collection
series. Yep. So we're going to talk about the interlude because we have the previous 2 and the actual adventure itself. The interlude here is called Lighting the Way, and this is going to feature the Questor of Mynbruje that hopefully, maybe there's a small little adventure or a scenario or encounter or whatever that the Game Master has thrown at the players so that they get to figure out who they need to go talk to, this Questor, to find out where to find the tomb of the traitor to the Blades of Carafad, or the Heroes of Carafad. So, this interlude actually needs an interlude itself. Just so you know, it needs a setup so that you figure out you need to go find this Questor of Mynbruje, who is Elven, and their name is Johnny Firebalm. And I kept looking at it like his name was Johnny, Johnnny. It is not. It is Jahnee, Firebalm. So I think somebody's reading a Fantastic Four comic for Johnny Storm.
Yeah, anyway, I mean, it'd certainly be pronounced Johnny. It's just spelled fantasy.
Exactly. So I'd give him credit for the spelling. I've not actually encountered anyone named Johnny spelled this way in my life. So points on you. So Johnny is an elven questor of Mynbruje. And to remind everybody, Mynbruje is the passion of justice, compassion, empathy, and truth. You go see Johnny to learn the name of the adept who betrayed the Heroes of Carafad. So even before you get to step 1, which is to go find Johnny, you need a step 0.1, which is the interlude where you figure out that this is the guy you need to go see. So
yeah. It's kind of left up to the Game Master a little bit. The setting the stage starts to lean into the darkness.
Yes.
That the curse kind of brings to bear.
Hints at, yeah.
You have learned that one of the members of this group who wielded the blades before you was horror-marked and betrayed his companions and his family and Carafad as a nation. And more than once you have glanced surreptitiously over the rim of your frothing mug at your laughing, chattering compatriots, trying to imagine the cold glint of betrayal in their eyes. Surely none of them possibly could. Such a thing could never happen. Really starting to play into the paranoia and fear that start to come to bear as the horror's curse kind of is working its way into the group. Try as you might, however, you cannot banish the unsettling thought from your mind. There's only one way to settle your nagging suspicions. You must learn the name of the long-ago traitor so that you can weave more threads to your daggers and move one step closer to banishing their curse. Luckily, you have found a highly reputable questor of Mynbruje who should be able to guide you on this part of your quest, where Mynbruje guides all sincere seekers of hidden truths, and metes out justice to traitors and criminals.
Mm-hmm.
You need to track down this information. Here's someone who is devoted to the passion of justice, who would have, interest in seeing this kind of resolved, but also knowledge and things like that. So it is very appropriate. I don't think there needs to be like a major quest for it.
No.
But it just needs to be introduced as something that here is a person that you could approach about this. And again, in your own game, there is nothing that requires you to use this specific NPC. If you already have a Questor of Mynbruje that is part of your game's background, you could certainly use them and have them be the individuals that communes with the passion to get this information.
Yeah. So in this write-up, the Questor uses a perceive emotion talent. And I believe for a 4th edition update, I looked through the Questor's book and the regular book. And so I think for 4th edition, you could use empathic sense, passions insight, or assess intentions. I think any one of those would do, because basically the Questor of Mynbruje, Johnny, is looking for an untruth or a lie coming from the player characters about why they're there and what they're looking for. And he's just going to, grab hold of that and call them out on it. So Johnny will help you as long as you're honest and respectful. And he tells you to go to the Liaj jungle. And at the end of this, he does a small ritual, which is a lot of flavor text for the Game Master to read to really set the scene as to what's going on there. It's an explanation of a magical ritual where he's going to imbue one of the blades as kind of a compass or divining rod or magnetic lodestone, whatever. Is going to direct them on a certain path to take, and it will always point them in the direction of where they need to go to find the traitor's resting ground.
Yeah. Again, just sort of a MacGuffin of like, okay, you need to get to this place. Here's a little bit of cool little magic that allows the dagger that has been used in this ritual. It basically places a wax seal that is marked with a symbol of Mynbruje that has stars and whatnot, because those are also strongly associated with his symbology.
Yes.
The stars glow basically when they are pointing in the direction of the tomb that they need to find, because the vision that he has from Mynbruje during his little meditation session or whatever basically indicates he is in his last resting place where his name is carved so that none may forget his shame in the Liaj jungle. And so they know roughly where they need to go, and then they have this device because, of course, the blades themselves are still tied to this story. They are still connected, even though they tried to remove him from the group. He is still part of that story, and therefore the pattern of the blades connects to him, and so therefore can lead to his tomb.
Exactly. So on to a traitor's fate. Step 3 out of the 5 in this one. I do want to bring up that I took a look. This one is written by Teeuwynn Woodruff.
Oh, Teeuwynn, yeah.
Sadly, left us in 2023.
Yes, I remember that actually coming. I think I even mentioned it on the might have mentioned it on the show.
Yes. So, and I took a look that just to see their other writing credits, and Wikipedia does not have any of Teeuwynn's works from FASA listed in there. And I think that is a crying shame. So anybody with the time and energy to go through all of the FASA products, especially the Earthon things that Teeuwynn contributed, needs to have those entered into Wikipedia because they are missing those. Anyway, Teeuwynn wrote this adventure and wanted to give them credit for it. 1966 to 2023. Thank you, Teeuwynn. Traitor's Fate is for 6 to 8 adepts of 6th to 7th circle. So this is, again, probably graduated from 5th circle to 6th circle in the other previous 2 adventures. And so this is looking for even higher levels from your player characters. You are seeking the rank 5 knowledge, which is the traitor's name, hence the prelude. This is where you can go find him, and the name is carved into infamy to their eternal shame. So you are headed to the Liaj jungle to find a grave. And the Liaj jungle is due north of Carafad across a river. So in case you're in Carafad, plan on crossing a river. If you're not in Carafad, go from there. So this could be a lengthy, if not near the jungle. The GM can stretch this out a little bit if you really want to intersperse other small little side quests on the way to this thing.
It depends on where the characters were, where they met the Questor of Mynbruje.
Yeah.
Jarrus is close-ish to the Liaj jungle. It's probably the actual population center that is closest to the Liaj jungle being on the western edge of Barsave, north of the Twilight Peaks and Dalaris Mountains.
Yep. Kind
of dangerous because if you are aware of the Liaj jungle at all, it is the domain of Usun, Vast Green, who considers the entire jungle to be his domain, and he does not look kindly on any interlopers, any name givers that might stray into his territory.
Yeah. So if you're close by, the Game Master make this really short, hand wave all the in-between traveling and just say, you arrive, at the southern tip, because you really want to go to the southern part, just nearest Carafad, because this whole thing is centered around and near Carafad in the first place. So when you go into the jungle, and your characters do need to go into the jungle, Don't forget we have episode 180 of our jungle travel EDSG, warning you exactly how to take care of those things. This will feature some lightning lizards, approximately 1 per player character. These suckers are 7 feet long. They're like Gila monsters. They are big. And the player characters are also going to be watched by a group of humanoids, called the Tamers. They're led by Dark Light, who's a human beastmaster of the 4th Circle, and about a dozen Tamers. This is the name for their clan.
To expand on that a little bit more, the Tamers are the name giver inhabitants of the Liaj jungle. They worship isn't quite the right word, but they
revere
Usun as sort of the force of nature that they must survive under. You know how you have the Cathan tribes of the Servos jungle? The Tamers are kind of like that for the Liaj jungle.
Right.
It's not that that their clan is called the Tamers. This is a particular group of Tamers, which is the general term for those name givers that live in the Liaj jungle. In Denizens Volume 1 in the human, I'm pretty sure it's in the human chapter of Denizens, it talks about the Tamers. It might be in the Barsafe campaign set, but there are a couple of places where the Tamers are actually talked about and described and kind of how they are, what their unique situation is. Because they're not exclusively human.
Fair.
But from a certain standpoint, they are very primitive in the sense of like, they tend to have very little, for lack of a better term, technology.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of like weaponry and stuff, it would all be
stone and wood,
sharpened sticks and stone and stuff like that could be made from the natural resources of the jungle itself. The teeth of dangerous animals in the Liaj jungle, because there are a lot of dangerous animals in the Liaj jungle. Not just the lightning lizards that are the encounter here, but Krogan are also very numerous. Skeorks, any number of dangerous wild animals can be found there, and the Tamers are the natives, are the people that live in that environment. And as I've said many times before, are therefore, culturally speaking, shaped by that environment.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a particular group of Tamers who live in the area that the player characters are passing through.
Absolutely. I had completely forgotten about the Tamers until this mention and your recap of them. Throughout all the other Earthdawn products until this mentioned here in Blades, and your recap now completely refreshed my memory that, yes, I had completely forgot them in their entirety. But that happens to me. The Tamers are going to, air quotes, help the party once you encounter them by leading them out of the jungle, because they don't want you doing what you're going to be doing. But when that fails, the Tamers will try to either subdue and capture the party to be sacrificed the next morning. So this could play out in a number of different ways. This is a big if-then statement in your adventure, where if the player characters just avoid the Tamers, they can get out of this. If they somehow fight off the Tamers, then the Tamers will scatter. Or if they lose to the Tamers, then yes, they'll be captured, and then they can parlay these things the next morning. So either way, regardless of capture or not capture, the Tamers are all going to be dead the next morning, except for the leader, Dark Light. And Dark Light did a murder-suicide on the Tamers due to the nature of the items that you are carrying and the influence of the horror on them, because Betrayer wants Dark Light to betray her Tamers, and if that's just too dark, Dark Light could be run off instead of the Tamers as well. So this is one of those, you might want to have some conversations about trigger warnings for your players.
Absolutely. I think if you are running this adventure series, and Earthdawn in general, if you are dealing with a game that deals with the horrors, you're gonna probably need to have some dark stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
Not necessarily spoiling the details, but the manifestation of the curse in the previous 2 adventures has all been relatively minor.
Yeah.
In the very first one, there was the thought that I'm going to have my brother killed so that I can take over his clan. There was sort of an attempt, but nothing came of it.
It was thwarted.
The second one, where the only sort of manifestation of the curse is the final member, the one that you get the answers from, realizes what's gone on and has the hold of courage brought down around your ears because it has been affected by that. This is the first time where the influence of the curse and the growing power of the curse and the influence of the horror is really starting to make itself known. And again, this is something that you would have to gauge yourself based on your group and things like that. But I think to a certain extent, you are doing a little bit of a disservice to the story, to the history of the Blades and the importance of the Seven Spokes, the former heroes of Carafad, and how this betrayal, how this horror, in a way, led to the collapse of Carafad. There were other factors involved, but if they had not been cursed, perhaps things might have turned out differently for Carafad in the overall scheme of things, rather than sort of collapsing as they did during the Orichalcum Wars and thus not really even making it to the Scourge, let alone surviving it.
Yeah.
If the group is actually able to successfully drive off the Tamers, that's fine. I think they should still kind of come across the aftermath of the event as is described in sort of the third scene here.
Yeah.
The Tamers do have a rather potent sleeping poison that they use on their weapons, and they outnumber the player characters, likely. Even though they're not necessarily as tough, they are in their home environment. They have surprise strike. They've got a sleeping venom. So I have to say, I'm not super thrilled with the idea of this primitive tribe captures the player characters and is going to sacrifice them to the jungle spirits because they feel they have been offended. That feels a little bit in some regards in terms of a stereotypical thing, but it kind of sets up the situation. You could certainly, if you wanted to avoid the negative stereotypes and whatnot there, have the interactions with the Tamers, have them attempt to drive the player characters off, or even if you've got some charismatic PCs like a good troubadour or whatever, that maybe they could arrange things so that they don't get attacked. But just generally, the Tamers are like, you're in our territory, and it doesn't even get mentioned in here, but I would probably play up the Usun angle.
Yeah, fair.
The idea that the Tamers would be like, you're in our territory. One, you're tromping around in this jungle. You don't know what you're doing. You're making a lot of noise. You're drawing a lot of attention. You're going to cause us problems as a result of that. Whether that is just disrupting our hunting territory so that we are going to have trouble dealing with that. You're not terribly far into the jungle here, so your likelihood of attracting Usun's attention isn't great, but the entire jungle is kind of considered his lair, so maybe... again, they wouldn't talk about it as it would be in whatever the framework is that they have for their relationship with the Great Dragon.
Yes.
But just generally like, hey, you're coming around in here, stomping around, not knowing what you're doing, causing us trouble. We would really rather that you went away.
Yeah.
Whether that ends up being something where they ambush the player characters and are intending to get them out of the jungle or to leave them out as a sacrifice, just an idea of like, you would draw this attention onto yourselves anyway. We're just going to make it easy for you to be dealt with.
Yes.
Or even, this is our territory. We don't really appreciate you. So, but maybe if they have good first impressions and really good, like you have a social group, it could be very well that they might be able to negotiate some kind of situation where they can be in here temporarily. But regardless of however that interaction goes, the horror is able to get its hooks into Darklight, who is the leader of this particular tribe, this particular clan. And Darklight essentially succumbs to the horror's influence and the curse and betrays her cohort and ends up killing them all.
Yes. Otherwise, I could see like take their sleeping poison and make it into like a tranquilizer dart, knock the whole party out, drag them out of this jungle, and let them try this again.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't forward the story at all.
Agreed.
It could be that like rather than sacrificing them, it's we've done this. We are in the morning going to take you to the edge of the jungle and leave you there.
Yes. Tell you not to come back.
Tell you not to come back. And that while that sort of holding time is happening, the events still take place.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe they could, instead of the whole murder-suicide thing, they could catch her in the act of beginning to.
That would be something I would play by ear.
Fair.
Especially where the opening interlude setting the stage narration is really starting to lean into the idea of you have learned this about the curse, and because you are woven to the blades, you're starting to wonder if those of you in your group who, remember, you have formed a group true pattern, you have this oath, you have this relationship, you're starting to have that thought of, would any of them actually do this? I can't believe that they would, but maybe we've got a curse, we don't know what's going on. And that is manifesting in, look, here is this group, this tight-knit group that is led by this individual, and your mere presence in their territory allows the horror and the curse to work its evil.
Yep.
Again, this is like one of those things where you need to kind of play things by ear based on your group and their comfort level and the kind of things that would be going on. You could go rather dark with this.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the only time that this sort of thing takes place.
No.
The next adventure as well has some stuff going on. But really, to go back to our sort of initial discussions about this, the framework of this whole thing is you have been cursed. You are affected by this curse through no real fault of your own other than you picked up these cursed items.
Yeah.
The curse manifests regardless of whether or not you actually have woven to the blades at that point. The only way out is through. But as you are going through and you are increasing your connection to the blades and you are learning more about the blades, that is at the same time empowering the horror and raising the stakes, raising the threat level, the kind of idea being, especially as you get into the second half of this, like from this adventure onward, the recognition is we need to be really careful because our mere presence in places could cause problems. And this is an escalation. The initial adventure was because he was already like sort of primed for it. It awoke the curse. He, went to betray his brother and realized what he had done and why.
Yeah.
This is the case of,
now it's affecting people that we just met.
Yeah, you are dealing with a horror. And while I am a strong proponent of safety tools and session zeros and making sure that while you are not necessarily spoiling things, your players have bought into what's going on and that there is an agreed upon level of darkness, for lack of a better term, maybe even the level that is seen, quote unquote, on screen.
Yes.
Right? That you may not have to see all of the dead and broken bodies of the other Tamers, that you only have the interaction with Darklight, and that Darklight, has like blood all over her.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that she says maybe indicates what has happened, but you don't necessarily witness it yourself.
You can get to the point without being grisly about it.
Well, again, that is something that is part of the negotiations, part of the session zero, part of the lines and veils that you may have established with your group. Yes. You are dealing with a horror curse. While it is in some senses a heroic game, it has elements of horror and dark fantasy that are part of it. And if you are going to be dealing with the horrors, particularly one who was in some ways, indirectly or not, responsible for the collapse of a pre-Scourge kingdom, and you're also dealing with high journeyman circle characters, 6, 7, 8, you're going to be dealing with big stuff. This is a setting where worm skulls exist. I think it is doing a disservice to horrors to just make them be mustache twirling villains that threaten a lot of stuff, but don't end up actually doing anything. Mm-hmm. The horrors are dangerous enough that people locked themselves away for 400 years.
Yes.
In fear of what they could do, and the practices and paranoia and culture that developed around protecting themselves from the horrors and all of the folk beliefs that arose from that, whatever degree of accuracy you decide they may have,
Yeah. Because, yeah.
Do what you want, but I personally think that if you are going to be dealing with a horror of this magnitude, you need to really demonstrate on some level what the stakes are.
Yes.
One member of this group betrayed them. They ultimately tried to fix that by cutting that member out of their group, but that effect was still there. Like it was too late, and they were never able to lift the curse. And so now it has fallen to you to do that, and you are in just as much trouble and danger as they were.
Yep. Because, again, this is in part 3 of the 5 parts. This is now affecting people you just met. So Betrayer is doing its thing, which is like, look what I can do. I'm coming for you as well. And so it'll do that with you. So when you finally do reach the Traitor's tomb, this is a crypt. Be as creative in its description as you want. The game master gets to kind of like lay on the description and flavor text, so stylize it. Be your best Stephen King with any description you want to do. The tomb is going to be unlocked, but there's more role-playing when you finally get to meet the creature that is inside. This is called a dark fetch. We're going to make fetch happen. And so this is on page 67. It has stats, and as far as I can tell, it is undead. So there's a specific way to permanently defeat one, and that's listed in its description. And if you don't do it right, it'll come back because it's undead. So you have to take care of this properly. And I believe you have to bury the bones separately, and a burial pattern must be, burial pattern of closure must have use a mystic sigil at the same time. So it is complicated and intricate, and if you don't do it right, it's gonna come back.
The advantage is that, at least presently, he can't leave the tomb. He is trapped there. The spirit, the dark fetch that is Kragen Overtall, is bound to his bones.
Yeah.
And what he wants to have happen is for those bones to be destroyed, to be burned. Because if that happens, then he is free and he can leave the tomb and go off to do whatever evil he wishes to do.
Yeah. Because this is either a permanent or a temporary defeat. The name can be found written in the crypt where the fetch appeared. So you don't have to necessarily do anything he wants as long as somebody learns the name and y'all get out.
Yeah.
But fight it, defeat it, find the name inside, either way. And if you do happen to burn those bones, because he makes a promise with you, and he's not going to be honest. He's going to swindle them, cajole them, and cheat them to have this happen. That way, because he wants to be free. And if that happens, you have a side quest now. So,
but like potential consequence, potential loose end that you need to deal with on top of dealing with this curse, you also need to now deal with this malicious spirit that you have set loose upon the lands of Barsave.
So when things don't go smooth, this is exactly what happens. And just as a thing, I recommend it. But that's all. It's just more adventure for you to run, and more adventure for them to have, and more consequences of they didn't pull this off properly the first time because they were swindled. So did they... Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's not really presented as information that the player characters are likely to learn in terms of how to successfully deal with Kragen.
No.
It's in the monster write-up in the loose ends about how it can be done. I would imagine that a successful knowledge or maybe a half magic test from a Nethermancer.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what this is.
I know how to take care of it.
Here's how we might be able to deal with it. Looking at the numbers for a 7th and 8th circle group, I don't think as the only enemy would be particularly...
6th and 7th, yeah.
Would he be particularly difficult? Again, looking at the first edition stats, the only stats that kind of exist for this.
Yes.
Physical defensive 19, mystic defensive 14, social defensive 12, only a 2 physical armor, 7 mystic armor. So decent physical defense, but not a lot of armor.
Yeah.
Has karma, has step 8 karma, has karma points.
Yeah.
So has that going in there. Death rating of 80, 2 attacks with attack step 15 and damage 13. Like, those aren't huge numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's like sort of a spirit that shows up. You beat it down once it reaches its death rating. It's not actually killed. It just kind of is dissipated for a little bit, for a few days.
Yeah.
And if you actually want to prevent it from returning, then you need to take its bones, which it is bound to, and bury them separately in a mystic pattern.
Yeah.
To lock it away forever.
So, and that requires a whole different level of skill and knowledge in what to do. So your spellcaster might know something about how to take care of that. So decisions.
He does have a nasty magic effect as well called Fetch Fire.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it lasts. It does a little bit of damage every round for several rounds, and armor doesn't reduce it, and you can't put it out. It only can be doused with true water. And so that is a nasty thing that can come about. But generally speaking, Kragen is going to lie and or cajole his way to letting the group release him.
Yeah.
He will make promises that he will not fulfill. He will say that you need to do this so that I can be released finally into the sweet embrace of death. He is an evil, nasty, corrupted, undead monstrosity.
Yes.
The troubleshooting is, says, hey, if he convinces them to burn his bones, let them.
Yes.
That's the consequence that may come about here. This isn't a super complex adventure. Like, it's fairly linear.
Yeah.
You need to travel to the jungle, an encounter on the edge of the jungle. The curse manifests itself. You find out sort of the consequences of the curse. You find the crypt. You find the spirit of the betrayer.
Mm-hmm. You get the name.
Hopefully get the name and are able to move on to things. And it may be that the encounter with the Tamers and what happens to them lights a little bit of a fire under the group to continue to try and resolve this danger.
Exactly. And going back to the interlude, you don't necessarily pay the Questor of Mynbruje, but he asks you to do them a favor, as in help the next Questor of Mynbruje you come across. So this is all of this part 3. A Traitor's Fate is just if-then statements. So decisions have to be made. What does the Game Master do with the Dark Light and the Tamers? Do the PCs let them live or not? When or will the Game Master next involve a Questor of Mynbruje? And will the PCs actually uphold their end of the oath to help them? Do the player characters agree to burn the bones of the fetch? That could be a problem. Letting loose a ghost to wreak havoc on the land. Did they fight the fetch and leave, thinking that they ended it, but the fetch comes back in 1 to 4 days? Do they force it to dissipate and bury it properly? I mean, all of these decisions are just if-then statements, and there's a myriad of endings.
Well, yes and no.
Yes.
There are several loose ends / plot threads that can be picked up to do later stuff. But none of that is necessary because the goal of the adventure, the focus of the adventure is to find the name.
Yes.
Everything else is sort of secondary to that. If the player characters defeat the fetch in combat and think he's dealt with, and they find the medallion and they get the name from it, fantastic. Yep. They have achieved their objective. If that's all that happens,
great.
That's maybe not the S tier ending, where they actually deal with the fetch, but also he's still trapped there, right? And perhaps, is a problem that the Tamers in the area that knew that was a cursed place are no longer there to let other people know. And so maybe there is some potential follow through on that or not. That would be completely up to you.
Yeah.
And the whole, you need to do a favor, you need to help the next Questor of Mynbruje that you come across that wants you to do something for them. That does not tie into this overall campaign at all. It is just
dangling thing out there for a while.
Yeah, when you get to these power levels, right, money is probably not a concern.
Mm-hmm.
This Questor of Mynbruje is not interested in wealth.
Yeah.
As a Questor, they want to further the objectives and the goals and the desires of their passion.
Yeah.
And so I will do this for you, and in return, you need to help, not me, you need to help the next Questor of Mynbruje that needs help, because that is furthering the goals of the passion. And the situation with the Tamers is ultimately you need to deal with them in some capacity, and that interaction should reveal the curse.
Yeah.
However they decide to handle that encounter, whether they manage to kind of talk their way through it, or whether they manage to fight well enough to drive them off, or whether they get captured, however that bit resolves, you then have the consequence of their presence there and the curse causing problems for this little group, upping the stakes and demonstrating the hazard that is in play here.
Yeah. So wanted to lay out all the loose ends, but to your ultimate point, yes, get in, get the name, get out, get the thread woven, on to the next adventure.
Yeah. Ultimately, this isn't quite a Robin Laws, here's 4 different ways that they may decide to resolve this problem.
Yes.
Because ultimately the problem is we need to find the name, and you find the name by finding the medallion in the tomb.
Yeah. Accomplish that.
However you deal with the obstacle that is the dark fetch in the crypt,
yeah,
he either tricks you or cajoles you somehow into burning his bones and setting him free. You, for lack of a better term, punch him until he goes to sleep.
You wail on him, yeah.
Or you have somebody in the group who is able to determine what the situation is and how to deal with it, and maybe resolve that as a threat that anybody else will ever have to face.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the objective is not to deal with the fetch, except insofar as how it is preventing you from finding out the information that you need. If it's talking to you, it could very well say, I will tell you this information, I will tell you my name, but you need to do this for me.
That's absolutely how I expected to swindle them.
In one sense, this is fairly linear. Basically, you travel to this place to find this information, and here's all the stuff that kind of happens around you. But those things have a certain amount of flexibility in how the group might interact with them, not necessarily how they will resolve them.
Yeah. So the Dark Fetch, I think this is the first time I've come across the Dark Fetch, not having read Blades before.
Yeah, I think it's the only time it actually shows up.
That was going to be my question. Is there a 4th edition equivalent, or just go with the stats that are here?
No, I would potentially rework the stats a little bit. Like, I don't know exactly how I would do it.
Yeah, fair.
I would look at these numbers, compare them to my player character group and how they are likely to deal with it, and maybe make some tweaks.
Yeah, because it's meant for 6 to 8 characters of 6th and 7th circle. That's
yeah, but the Dark Fetch, again, its numbers are decent.
It shouldn't be an overwhelming obstacle. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, there's only one of them. The action economy is going to be in the player character's favor. And looking at, say, a combat, a swordmaster or a warrior in 4th edition who's got durability 7.
Yeah.
It's 6th circle. You're looking at death rating in the 80s or 90s probably. Plus whatever talent selection they have. Again, right off the top of my head, I don't think that the Dark Fetch is intended to be you need to beat this really tough opponent in order to find the information. Yeah.
It should be a fight, but it should be a 15-round knockdown, drag out, you almost didn't survive with, by the skin of your teeth fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should be a challenge, but not...
maybe scale, like if your group is 6th circle or 7th circle, I might scale the fetch as to be sort of equivalent roughly to an 8th circle character.
Yeah.
But again, also, like the way this was written, the player characters will outnumber the fetch and probably should not have much trouble punching him to sleep.
Even if there's only 4 of them, yeah, it still shouldn't be that.
Yeah, if you've got a smaller group, then that may be a little bit more difficult. And like anything, when we're looking at older material, what you need to do is look at the numbers and compare them to your player character group and say, yeah, this seems like it would be a fairly easy encounter. Maybe let me bring a couple of numbers up. They're kind of a socially inclined group, so maybe this would be the approach that it would be. Yeah, this is not
a one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask about the fetch because it was new to me and it's new to everybody else. And this is the only time it's mentioned here. So wanted to bring that up. Any other thoughts on this one? Because you said it's non-linear. There's a couple of dangling threads at the end as to what they did and how the Game Master can pull on them later.
It is linear. It's not non-linear. Sorry. It is linear.
I was
relatively speaking.
Yeah, relatively speaking. So fairly linear, and then a couple of dangling threads at the end. So the Game Master can pull on those later on when they want to. And then the fetch is kind of unique, and how they resolve the fetch verbally. Are they swindled? Are they not swindled? Did they do it right? Whatever. Get the name, yes. But how they handle the fetch could also come back to bite them as another dangling thread at the end. So other than that, it's a nice little soft, squishy middle of, number 5. So this is number 3 of 5. So I like this one. I think Teeuwynn understood the assignment and hit it and did it nicely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So until next time, folks, go punch your fetch to sleep for your legend.
Good night, everybody.